Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Lisa Jacobi,
It is.
SVP,
That is
Chief
my name.
of HR
Yes.
at COCC.
That is all correct.
I have a confession.
Okay, hit
I
me.
was trying to look at what COCC stands for.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, it needs to be a mystery because it's such an outdated name.
Is that why? I kind of found it, and
Did
I
you?
assume maybe that's why.
Did you really find it?
Connecticut Center
Okay,
for Computer
you're close. You're
or
close.
something or
It's
other?
Connecticut Online Computer Center,
Yeah.
So our business has been around for almost 59 years, and that name, Connecticut Online Computer Center, dates back when we were a mainframe shop. So this company started with two banks actually coming together, needing the same system back in the late 60s. And so then the acronym kind of moved to COCC, and now we're actually going to be going through a rebrand and changing our name.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it for many, many years because it's such an outdated term. And we have new hires that come in and they're like, what does exactly COCC stand for? We're like, it's best that you just know it by COCC. But that is truly, our name is still Connecticut Online Computer Center.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, to your point, the term is outdated, but for new hires, it's
They want to
They
understand.
want to have like a
Right.
badge that
They want to
that's a
have
little bit
that,
more
or anybody in their
meaningful.
family is like, so what does COCC mean? And then it's just as hard to explain all the business lines that we have running through our business and what we do. So it's not an easy first question.
Yeah. Well, so looking to the event, obviously workforce development, we pushed this idea of velocity as hopefully a place where Connecticut can lean into and really understand it's such a broader ecosystem of developing a workforce that is, yes, labor and skill and training, but also accessibility and childcare and all of the
comes
things
together.
that come. Yeah. So you'll be leading or on the panel? Do you know? Are you leading?
I think I'm part of one of your breakout panels.
On why they still can't hire.
Why we still can't hire, which is an interesting phrase. I like it, but I think you could come at it in many different places.
So I think that's a good segue. So
Sure.
what's your personalized approach, or what's your philosophy on kind of coming at that challenge at COCC or
Sure.
general?
Well, it's funny because we have about 700 employees, and I will admit, we have about 150 of them that are remote, fully remote, not in Connecticut. Though I will say our best success of candidacy, our best success of great hiring are people that can be part of our culture, people that can be connected to our culture. It's hard to do that sometimes when you're fully remote. Though we have employees that are fully remote that do a great job at coming back to the kind of home base and reconnecting and using the tools that we have today. But being where we are today, we've become a prominent employer. We've gotten great recognition between top workplace programs, Great Place to Work certified.
11 years counting, right?
Yes. Well, we are. I can't even remember how many. I think we're at 16 years and counting now as being a top workplace.
Okay.
And we've been a Great Place to Work nationally certified for the last 6-7 years. So those things have helped us.
Yeah.
We went from a time where no one really knew us and it was hard to find talent because you didn't have that brand. Most of our office at 12 years ago was in Avon. It was harder to recruit. We moved our corporate office to Southington, which has been really helpful for us. And then that brand awareness, right? People hearing about Top Workplace, people hearing about Great Places to Work, getting on certain national lists have been really helpful to us. And then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, wow, it's crazy to see that we've become this prominent employer in Connecticut. And you have this almost overnight feeling like it wasn't overnight, but you have these moments where people will come in and I'll say, why did you join us? Why are you here? And many people will tell me, Lisa, it took me 2 years to get in. I've been trying to get into this workplace for
gotta be a great
over
feeling.
a year. It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Great for me. I've been there 22 years. I remember what it was like before and where we've gone. And so having that is something that you immediately say, how do you nurture it in a way to keep it? Because finding talent is really hard, and keeping talent is going to continue to be a very, hardship for many people, especially in Connecticut.
Sure,
I just don't think we have enough. I don't think we have enough talent to begin with in our country, and then in Connecticut, it can certainly be hard.
Yeah, I mean, all of the data that shows the gap in the viable workforce versus openings, as you've kind of grown, and you just said you have about 107 people or so that are fully remote. Like, is that a constant juggle trying to, even when you're trying to identify potential
It
talent?
is. I mean, I will say so I don't know how much you know about our business, but we support banks and credit unions. A big part of our business, we have about 155 banks and credit unions on our core system. We have a digital banking product. Think about your mobile, your mobile banking, and all the things that kind of wrap around that. And we have a bunch of other technology services that we offer back to banks. Our client is your community bank. It's your small to mid-size regional type of bank that needs help, needs to outsource the technology, needs to outsource the cyber. They need all that support. And so in our business, we have so many different parts of the business that you're hiring for. It's not the same person you're hiring here than there. And so we have found that some of our roles that are really hard to find, we have to go outside of Connecticut. And that's a hard, like I'm a girl who's been in Connecticut a long time, so it's like, it's kind of like, if you work at Target, you'd probably never go to Walmart to shop. And so, but for those types of roles that we know are so niche that we need to find the right person, the right talent, the right culture fit for us, we are going outside of Connecticut. But most of those are kind of sitting in our technology shops. Our services teams, a huge part of them are obviously resident here to Connecticut.
Have you seen any folks that weren't from Connecticut, were remote, and decided to move
here?
in? Yeah.
I'm smirking because yes, I mean you have, and I think Connecticut's been known for this. And I don't quote me exactly, even though there's cameras around, but I think there's been for many, many years this large swath of people coming back into Connecticut are in that 29 to 37-year-old range. People who might have left and said, okay, now I'm going to come back because I want to have a family and raise kids, and believe that Connecticut's a great place for that. And so we've seen this. We've seen people that have said, hey, I moved and I want to come back, or I moved during COVID and I'm interested in coming back. And we love that because then we already know they're already hooked into Connecticut. They know what they're getting. And so we've seen a few spots of that, and I call those bright spots when we see those people that are really excited to come back to Connecticut, and they're coming back to Connecticut working for a great employer. We kind of know it normally is a good win.
But it feels like too, because I think I've heard that and seen that as well, and it almost is they're younger in transition, figuring out truly what they want to do for the rest of their lives or for the next considerable chunk of it. And, because of some of the challenges in Connecticut as far as cost of living and things like that, they kind of discover themselves elsewhere. And then to your point, like once they're a little bit more stable and, they can, the expenses aren't as prohibitory, then they see the balance that Connecticut has and the access and the lifestyle and things like that.
Yes, and many times they're coming back and they're having a compensation change. They're having that wage cut, but they see that there's something that's different here than where they were living before. So we've seen that as well, and that's typically it's in a winning scenario for us when someone's coming back and we know they want to stay.
So you jumped onto the best places to work list, obviously, in your tenure when you
wasn't easy to
took
do.
the helm. What was there a long-term, short-term vision? Was it just something that has innately built, over how you think? What was the approach looking back all the way to what it's kind of carried forward to now?
It's been a big change. I've been a lot of people ask me, wow, Lisa, you've stayed at COCC for over 20 years. What's the secret? I'm like, well, there's been a couple things. One is, we've been centered around great growth, speed, time goes by quickly. I've always been on the mantra that if I'm not building a new tool in my own career toolbox every 6 months to a year, then it's time for me to go. I've never had to really answer that question for myself. It's been a pretty quick one. And I've been blessed to have a wonderful executive team and CEO around that I've watched build this organization. And I know it's not just one person, it takes all of us. But it's made my job as CHRO very easy to do because there's the appreciation, there's the genuineness, and I've watched him as well grow into really being a people leader. And when I came in, he had just taken over as CEO, and he's just done a phenomenal job, really building this workforce and allowing me and my team to thrive. That is something that I don't take for granted. That I've been allowed to think outside the box. I've been allowed to build a team of people that are doing amazing things back at the office. So we have a very progressive HR group. We have a large group. We invest a lot in our people with learning and development programs, doing so many different things in the benefits and perk space. That's what's gotten us, and that's what's probably kept me, feeling like we're in that winning zone. And now we're helping out our clients. We have so many of our clients that are coming to us and asking an opinion on, we have this HR issue, or what are you doing for this benefit? And that has been probably one of the most rewarding things for me, is to be able to give that guidance outwardly, build that relationship with our banks differently.
Do you think that that's part of like the all-encompassing like back office solution like trend, almost like where there's a feeling as like, you're my infrastructure, and now also my like concierge, right?
Yes, yes. And I think that when you create a relationship with any client where they almost look at you like that concierge, you've won that relationship, because they're coming to you of things that they're not even being charged. We're not charging them for this, but it's just the power of that relationship. We like to call it a lot that it's the power of the cooperative that we've built, and in turn we have it in our workplace. You know a lot about the people that you work with. You know their pets' names. The things that can make that connection really deep. But if we didn't have the talent that we've built in this organization, we wouldn't be successful as a company. It's a huge part of our business, is the talent that exists around the table.
What's some of the best areas or sources? Is it universities, is it partnerships, or is it certain pipelines of talent that you have relationships with?
It's a great question, and I would tell you it's all of the above. Yeah. It's the brand. Today, in this day and age, you used to get away with something where someone would say, I've never heard of COCC before. And they wouldn't have the 2 seconds to check out Glassdoor, Indeed, what's happening on LinkedIn. And so people now are coming into our organization knowing all the warts, right?
Yeah,
they see the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
And so that element of making sure that your workplace has a good reputation on the street is huge. Absolutely huge. We didn't have to deal with that as much before.
It was like this interesting time early on where employers had almost like the leg up because of social media and the access and tools to find out more about the candidate. And now, to your point, with those networks and all the other, resources that everyone has, it's kind of like this very two-way interview, in many ways.
It is, and they know a lot about you already, which is wonderful. You back up even 10, 15 years ago, and you could say to someone, we're a great place to work, and you would just instantly believe me from me telling you that. And now it's that you have
great
all those,
balance,
right?
super family friendly.
Yes, and you have, and now you have all that you really need to, really be mindful of. And I'll tell you the biggest thing that we talk a lot about with many parts of our business is the talent, the labor workforce just in our country alone is not really growing. It's growing by less than 0.5% over these next few years. And so we talk a lot about, this is why you need to invest in new tools. This is why you've got to stay progressive, because there won't be enough people to fill these jobs. And I think that's why, many will go and to look at AI tools, not because they need you don't need, this is not replacing someone. This is the fact that you can't get the talent that we once had. And we've got people who, our CEO today just celebrated 35 years of service at COCC, right? And we have a lot of these folks that have been in our organization so long, and that element of, it's beyond the tribal knowledge. It's the element of, yes, they've had the history, but they have the ability to think differently and make some better decisions even going forward. You're not going to ever replace that. It doesn't exist today.
Well, also, it's truly like to give you and COCC some kudos. Like that is also the sign of a really strong and sort of visionary company, because that institutional knowledge, right? That the knowing where all the the skeletons are in the closet or whatever to say, right? Like that can be valuable, but can also be restricting. And
both.
And to be able to continue to grow, to see all forms of fintech platforms and SaaS products and banking, like come and go and kind of evolve with and beyond that is is really telling of a great company. So, I think, the balance though is not something that all companies have figured out.
Right, and we make mistakes all the time. I'm always the first to say here,
yeah.
learn from our mistake. But it is that balance. So when our company thrives on both the technology components that we allow our banks and credit unions to run, and the talent behind it, you need both. And if you don't invest in both, then you really are suffering. And so for us, it's that constant balance.
Yeah.
But and I will say, the colleges here in Connecticut have been a wonderful breeding ground for us to find new talent, bring in new talent, and we've really built some great relationships in the last, I'd certainly say the last 10 years, the last 5 in particular. Our intern program has been a huge success. We're probably now, we're 10 years into having a decent program, but I'd say the last 5-6 years we've had our most formal, successful
conversions from intern to full time.
And we have 34 interns joining us in 3.5 weeks.
Incredible, yeah.
And and we'll continue to have a chunk of those getting hired. So really has been a wonderful success for us to invest the dollars that we've done for that intern program has paid off.
Are there elements of the business where you look at, the makeup of Connecticut and its residents, the programs at our universities, and see the openings that you have and are just sort of like, where are these people? Because it should make sense, right? Or there should be a population here. Is there anything that is a real strange misalignment?
There is a fair amount. I think the technology, the technical people, our technical side. So when we're looking for network architects, cybersecurity, specialists on things, we just don't have enough of them.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just Connecticut alone, but I do think it's more of a broader reach. But we don't have enough of those, the technology people that we're looking to fill some of those roles. And that's probably usually why we instantly kind of know we're going to have to, seek outside.
West Coast or overseas kind of thing, right?
We're going to have to seek outside that bubble of Connecticut.
Yeah.
And so, those are going to be the challenges. We're still going to have those challenges. I think we also have a little bit of what I'll call the internal challenge, where we, and many, as I said before, a lot of our folks have been in the company a long time. So when you have an opening, you're like, this person has to have this experience. They have to know this. And I think all of us, it doesn't matter where you are, I think we have to start really thinking about what skills they need versus that experience, and hiring based on the skill. And there's just phenomenal, situations that are happening with this entrance of AI that, the critical skills of the future are natural curiosity, are people who, they have critical thinking, contextual thinking, not scared to make a mistake, try something new. Those are the skills of the future. And I think if we just stopped and said, I'm not going to wait 6 months to find the perfect person. I'm not going to wait 3 months to find the person that has this exact skill or this experience. Maybe I could train it. I could train them with that. And that I think every company's got to start really thinking about a skill, skill-based hiring, but the skills more than the experience. Do they have what it takes?
Almost more mindset or willingness as a skill.
It's a huge thing. And if you think about what do you need for tomorrow, it will start to look really different than what you need right now. And I even think that in my teams.
And it's compounding, right?
Yes.
I was kind of referenced, I saw this presentation, someone was talking about if you transported someone into a different era, how far out would you need to go for them to just be totally, the way that they said it was their brain would explode because they could have no way to comprehend what they were, it was 2,000 years ago to 200 years ago, there's a transition, but, it's went from, no lights to fire or whatever, right? And then you go but then, you get from 200 to 20 years and then 20 to 2, there's this half-life to things changing. So, and it's true, it's only continued. Yeah.
Rapid change.
Yeah.
Rapid change. So if you think about what you need today to what you need 2 years from now, I think it's going to look very different than if I asked myself that question 5 years ago. I think for the most part, I'd say I kind of still need the same person. I don't think I need that anymore. I think there's been a big shift. Shift coming.
Do you think employees or candidates are thinking that way yet?
Soon. I think the ones that do are going to be the ones that are in the driver's seat. And that, I don't know where all that's entering the collegiate level, like people in the college phase. But I think it's going to be those skills that really are winning out, no matter if you're in a technical role, if you're in a product-driven role, if you're in a business role. Having that ever-changing thought and idea and well, let me go about it this way. Let me handle it this way. And the creativity and part of thinking outside the box, I think is going to be really the new wave on many. In our business, I can tell you from like the 150 different departments we have, that will win not all of them, but in many of them, it will win out for the person who's, has the ability to be a little bit more fluid in their thinking.
It's interesting though, because we've spent so long over the last couple decades, right? Like training specialization. And, there was a point, it's gotten a little bit better, but coming out of COVID where everything, it was like they lived a remote life, lived the Zoom life, like got very great and and practiced a skill. But then, we interpret it as like, oh, they're not socialized or they're not used to this like in-office dynamic or collaboration or whatever it may be. But the world was going there anyway. And now to what you're saying, it's anyone or anything is likely going to be able to do that one skill. But, now you need people that understand this department, that client type can kind of contextualize the need and sort of work through it. So it's almost like that generalist Renaissance mindset is that's what's
is might
the value,
win.
Is the value.
Might be the win.
Yeah, we've trained it out of people.
Yes, very much so.
So, I mean, obviously, you're dedicated to Connecticut, and
I am right now. Yes, and I probably will be for a while.
So, looking to this event, right? We're trying to kind of bring together some of those conversations and. Maybe there's there's a secret population of really great technologists in some random city, but that's probably not going to come out. What do you hope does come out in conversation? Or
I think there's still a lot that Connecticut has to be proud of, and I do really wonder if sometimes we don't think about the things that we're proud of. And I go back a little bit, and I'll go on a tangent here for a bit. But when I was a kid, we moved around a lot, and we came back to Connecticut when I was 14. So I do feel like Connecticut is my home, though I was born in Michigan. But and then when you travel and you see different perspectives, there is an element of Connecticut that has a wonderful part of it, right? We can all sit here and talk about, the four seasons, the ability. Yes, we have traffic issues, but they're not near as bad as others, right? Unless you're, if you're down in the Stamford area, there's still that challenge. But I think there's a lot that we have to offer. There's still a lot of growth that can come. Even in home building, there's a lot that other areas can't speak to, and I think those are the things that we need to almost remind people of. That we're not dealing with droughts. We're not dealing with things like my kids wouldn't even at this point. Like I yell at my daughter all the time. I have a song and I tell her water's not free because she's in the shower for 20 minutes, right? But we have things and we have luxuries in this state that I would love to see more companies come here, stay here. Recognize we have a lot of different employment laws, and I'll be careful of touching upon it too much, because it does keep me employed, but it also, you want to have a place where businesses can still feel like I can come here and thrive. So I do think that some of those laws keep talent because they want, you want good people to stay, but we've got to find a better balance of how we can handle that, especially in the small businesses. For us being 700 employees, I would expect that all these laws should apply to us. We should be modeling the way. But when you're a company of 10 and you're saddled with, or even 5, and you're saddled with the same laws that we're dealing with, you don't have that economies of scale that we might have. And so I think those are the things that I hope that we just simmer down a bit. It's not that I just disagree with anything that's come in play. I just think we just need to kind of settle in a little bit and recognize that, a small business to a large business can handle some of these things very differently.
Yeah. Well, and it feels like a lot of times, at least from the outside, looking in on some of those, the deals that do go down, like they're very much handled one-to-one, and it's not necessarily setting up an environment where other businesses of that size or that type can see that there is this acceptance or there is this interest. It's kind of, specified breaks or, these certain incentives or funding from these multiple locations that are, kind of created for, this one instance. And that's difficult to navigate too for smaller businesses.
It is. It's a challenge. Definitely a challenge for them.
You had mentioned, the housing piece that constantly kind of comes up, and there is research that shows, the access to affordable housing is, the headwind, right? Or like the leading indicator of, whether there will be viable talent.
Yes.
So, to a certain extent, Connecticut has tried to empower its regions by allowing them to create their own kind of housing regulations. Does that, do you think, really become a hindrance? Like if there isn't this easier path to
Home ownership and things like that?
And affordable housing, or everywhere you go in every part of the country now you see these communities that are mixed use, residential, all types of residential amenities, and yes, we have great hiking trails and everything else, but if we can't get people to walk on those trails,
we're not getting anywhere. We're not going anywhere. I think we're still going to see more of this fusing of retail business with housing, retail business with housing. And honestly, I think in this country, you're seeing it in many other places. You just haven't seen it yet in Connecticut. You haven't seen, what's gone on in, other cities where, you've got corporate buildings wrapped with shopping and housing. We have a little bit of it, call it in Norwalk, right? You have a little bit of it down in the Fairfield County area, but we don't have enough of it yet in the rest of the state. And I think that's what we need to spend some time on figuring out, where those are going to be the places that people want to go to. They want to live in a place where they can walk to things, or they can have that socialization differently. I live in Avon today, so full disclosure, right? I can't really walk to anything. But I think that's what's going to shift. My kids won't want to be where we are today. I think they'll have a different level of interest in that.
Well, especially, like as you talk about the people that we are losing in the midterm, right? Like that are going to find themselves elsewhere or are from somewhere else and figured out they can't, kind of get their apartment on their, on their entry level job comp. But it does feel like you just drive down 95 and look on either side, and there's a ton of existing infrastructure that would need to be, retrofitted or rehabbed. But that is a main thoroughfare, accessible, commutable, real estate, and for whatever reason, there is a real challenge.
Yeah. So I'd love to see more of that, and I'd love to see that, come into even towns like this, maybe not Cheshire yet, but Southington, sure. I think Southington's done a great job.
They're getting there with the...
they are. They've done a really good job.
Is that the Cheshire or Southington with the Barnes and Nobles and Whole Foods?
That's Cheshire.
That's Cheshire.
But it's very close to like the Southington, Plantsville area. When you and I've been talking, I've been thinking about that exact place, because I think that's what we need more. We need to find more of those places. And hopefully they'll fill up and people will see the value.
There.
Yeah, see the value. Hopefully they'll see the value.
Anything else you're thinking about for the event, or what I could push a little bit more on, like your perspective and day to day and type of talent. Do you have any secret ways in which you kind of qualify, or you train your team to look for those intangibles?
I think I do. I mean, we spend a ton of time talking about connection. I think it's one of the reasons why we have an average tenure at over 8 years at our company,
That's
even
incredible.
people who are in their 20s. And I think it's that connection. And I think the other component that all of us every business needs to think about is the trust factor, right? So you have so much entering from automation, AI coming in, people being fearful of that. And by the way, that doesn't matter what age. There are people that I've asked in teams to say, I want you to start thinking about AI, and they're 5 years out of school and they're like, what? Like they're scared of it, right? So it's not there's no demographic here that I would say is jumping in quicker than somebody else. But trust is a huge thing. And I look at our business, and that's what we have to keep going on, is that having the people that you work with, you spend more time in the office or together than you do at home or other places, that you need to have that trust. You need to have that trusting mindset. So whether you're, and this isn't just for leaders, it's also for the coworkers around you, that you need to feel like you're at a place that you have great trust. And trust doesn't really take a lot of money to build.
Trust, I think also, like when, as you were talking, my mind went to someone we had just interviewed, and they were here before I walked in, and there was a rocky departure, and they, said that they've grown and they've evolved, and to a certain extent, you can trust that, and you have to, but then there's also action that has to kind of follow through, and I think that there's this element of owning it in some ways, and kind of continuing to operate transparently, or as that person is. And, I think what I had said was like, I don't want, if they were to come in, I wouldn't want them pretending to be what we think.
Sure.
That we, right. It's the idea of, part of what they want to do is get skilled, so they would be a much more, enticing candidate in 5 years, right? Really level themselves up. And what I wanted to say is thinking like the free agent, for hire, and kind of focusing on your personal stats if you come back, right, is one way. But you're actually, if you think of yourselves more of like the franchise player, and yes, you come in with skills, but you also are judged by how the team grows with you and around you. Whether you want to take your talent somewhere else or you want to stay here, it's going to make the entire sort of circumstance far more valuable for for you and for the business. And I think that's
completely agree.
When I think of trust, it's more about like just trust in that the team is not there for you to step on or for them to step on you, right? And I think that's the challenge. And I've seen that with AI too, because if people are using it, there's these, right now, a little bit of like, here's how I'm using it, and I don't want that to be, sort of
I don't want to
exposed,
share it too far.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
but I think people should, and I think that's where that trust, the communication, being transparent. There's nothing wrong with being transparent, like saying, hey, I tried this out, but it didn't work. Yeah. And I think we've done a good job trying to build a workplace that, for the most part, people trust the people that they're working with. We have to keep that, because the speed of change is going to go so much faster now, and we have to figure out, like, how do we keep a little bit of that secret sauce, because that's what's gotten people to come back to work.
Do you think that comes through? I mean, it comes through in a lot of ways, and it's seen and felt in the Glassdoor and employer reviews and things like that. But like year to year, month to month, like how is that reinforced or maintained? Through town halls or through like the summits or visionary statements? It's a combination of
a ton of things. And I look at it's also what makes you feel like you're yourself. Like we do so many surveys to our workforce. We're in one right now for top workplaces, and the majority of times, the things that I look at a macro level is, one is, I want the feedback, right? The day that we get like no comments and everyone just scored 5 down the road, it's like, this is what we do. And
there's something else to look at there.
Yeah, it's completely checked out, right? It's no different than, all I want to do is get off the phone, and they're like, you're on the phone with any type of utility company, and they're like, will you answer these quick questions, and you just want to get off the phone. They could have been the worst customer service person, but you're like 5, they did great. You just want to get through it. And so for me, it's like looking at the data, giving those comments and giving the good feedback, but also giving the feedback where we can do better. Like that shows me that you were passionate and you cared enough to write it out. The person who's checked out won't even give you that feedback. Right. The person who's angry doesn't give you anything objective, but that's the stuff that we need. So those pieces are really important. And then along with some of these statements, like, I can be myself, right? Like, if we start to go down in these statements of, I feel like I can be myself at work, and we start to go down in that, I will get really worried, because I think it's the people that come to work that genuinely like the people they work with, genuinely has a trust, they feel like they can be themselves, are the ones that will keep coming back.
Do you do soft skills training for
Yes.
like managers and stuff?
We
Because
do.
I feel like that's also a lot of times where they hit sort of that dead end, right? Like because the
So much.
manager may agree, may be empathetic, but maybe the next level doesn't want to hear that, right?
Right.
So it's like, how do you translate? What do you escalate versus try and then de-escalate, right,
Yes.
on the other end? Yeah.
And I do think it's actually starting at the base layer. So our talent development team does a great job with some of the leadership management 101, what it takes to lead, those leadership principles. Because as you rise up, you can't, you have to be ready to know, I have to, like in my seat, I have to have the initiative to lead myself and lead my team. I can't expect the attention that I give to my group of checking in is always going to be up from me.
Right.
I have to be able to do that myself. And I think those are the, as you kind of go up the chain in your role in leadership, you may not always have that person that's going to be right behind you pushing you, because now you're supposed to be doing that for yourself and for your team.
That's interesting, yeah.
But I think that when we all have those moments to step back and recognize, you spend more time with the people you work with than you do at home, right? I was just at an event a few weeks ago where someone said, when companies don't want to invest even in wellness for an employee, think about the fact that they spend 30 minutes a year with their doctor on their physical, 30 minutes a year. But at work, you're probably typically spending over 2,000 hours a year with the people you work with. So if you're not investing in some of those things, those are the things that really hit you, and you have to say, we have to make sure that this workplace is something that we're going to always keep it good enough for people wanting to come back every day. It's big. It's a big thing.
How do you sell it in or plan for it, right? Because it's investment.
It
and
is.
And when we talk about some of the smaller companies,
It's harder to do.
Whether that's their kids' school tuition or it's, the mortgage payment or it's a training program, or, even at an enterprise level, how much to invest. Like, how do you go through those?
For us, we're cooperatively owned. So, but we also, our biggest investments, right, is the technology that we're running in our people. So our people is the highest investment, our biggest expense. We'll never be the top 20 or 30% in compensation. We can't. We would be losing money if I went to our CFO and said, look, we're like 10% behind.
Everyone will be happier with 30% more.
Yes, right. And he's like, Lisa, we're planning to make this amount of money, but the dollar amount that you want is 4 times that. So how does this work? And I think collectively, this is where we've doubled down on the benefits, the perks, the learning, the career pathing. And I think small businesses, they almost need to band together, because it's going to be harder. We have that economies of scale, but it's going to be harder for them to be able to do that, because people expect it.
Yeah.
People are expecting some of these things where they can have that investment. They can feel like they're making an impact, because it's harder. Look at gas prices, right?
Yeah.
The cost of living is just continuing to rise exponentially, and I think it's just making sure that you don't lose sight of some of that. And a lot of companies are pulling back on things right now that I very much disagree with. I think I think you gotta, unless you have a real strong business reason why you have to, and you need to explain that very carefully to your people. This is a delicate time right now.
I think that's that trust thing. So often it doesn't go down, like, I don't want to say downhill, but it doesn't go outward, right? It's trust us. But then when decisions are made, that some of that just very clear explanation would go a long way to sort of buying the loyalty or earning the loyalty.
It's a big thing. Big thing.
Something else that you had said was kind of got me thinking, but I lost it.
That's okay. that happens. That happens. Yeah.
But I certainly appreciate your time. Looking forward to the event. Hopefully, there's some I was thinking we could force people to look at how they could exchange benefits through their customer relationships, right? So, to your point, banding together
and learning from each other.
If you can't put out the dollars, then so much of the businesses around, especially in Connecticut, are small, medium-sized, service-based. So is there an exchange or something that can be a benefits marketplace, but at a localized or state level that
can help
That
band
can
those
help,
things
yeah.
together. And even in many things, even what we started out with doing, we're free. You know, to this day, I will continue to give great credit to a former HR leader we had at COCC. She's been gone now for 14 years. She left us 14 years ago. And she started our walking program, 10:30 and 2:30. We want people to get out and walk 10 minutes a day. So she started that in like 2011, and it's still going strong.
That's great.
And it costs us $0.
Right.
So if you ever are near our building at like 10:30 and 2:30, and you're like, are they having a fire drill? No, we don't have a fire drill. We just have groups that are naturally getting out and walking. And that cost us $0 to make an investment on. And so it's those little things that sometimes it's not the dollars. It's the things that make that impact, that allow someone to get up and have that freedom to get up
Sure.
and take a walk, and do that with their coworkers.
That's a good point. And you said it, listening to what they're saying and kind of really hearing them and being open to trying to come up with a solution, whether it's an invested solution or free alternatives.
Yes, right. I mean, it makes a big difference. So, but that's really it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.